You probably think the 9-to-5 grind is just a modern nightmare. In reality, the concept of work as a rigid, time-clocked obligation is a historical blink of an eye. For 95% of human existence, there were no offices, no bosses, and certainly no weekend hours to look forward to. Before the dawn of agriculture 10,000 years ago, humans lived as nomadic hunter-gatherers, and if you think their lives were a non-stop slog for survival, the data suggest exactly the opposite. In the 1960s, anthropologist Marshall Solins famously coined the term the original affluent society. He studied the Hadza people of Tanzania and the Kung San of the Kalahari Desert. He found something that shocked the academic world. These people were not starving or working themselves to death. They spent roughly 15 to 20 hours a week on subsistence activities, that is, gathering berries, hunting game, and collecting water. The rest of the time, they were doing exactly what you do on your day off. They were socializing, resting, playing, and making music. Before civilization anchored us to the soil, time was measured by the sun and the moon, not a ticking clock. If a hunter caught a large animal, the community could eat for days. There was no pressure to produce more than what was needed because there was no way to store the surplus. You couldn't hoard meat in a world without refrigerators. So, once your belly was full, your workday was finished. This leads to the question of what they actually did with all that free time. First, they mastered the art of conversation. In a small band of 30 to 50 people, communication was the primary tool for social cohesion. They didn't have Netflix, so they invented epic storytelling. These weren't just bedtime tales. They were complex oral histories that taught survival skills, moral codes, and the genealogy of the tribe. Second, they perfected the art of leisure. We see evidence in the archaeological record of decorative beads made from ostrich eggshells dating back over 40,000 years. These beads served no functional purpose. You cannot eat them, and they won't keep you warm. They were pure fashion. These people spent hours painstakingly grinding, drilling, and polishing stones just to look good. They were also master craftspeople. The manufacturing of a stone hand axe was a technical marvel that required intimate knowledge of geology and physics. It wasn't just utility, it was artistry. Many of these tools showed decorative flaking that served no purpose other than to demonstrate the skill of the maker. When the Neolithic Revolution hit around 10,000 years ago, everything changed. We discovered agriculture. We started planting wheat, barley, and rice. Suddenly we had a reason to stay in one place. We built granaries, we created property rights, and most importantly, we created the need for backbreaking labor. Agriculture was a trap. It required clearing forests, tilling soil, hauling water, and guarding crops. It demanded constant attention. If you didn't work, you didn't eat next season. Population density skyrocketed, leading to the first real hierarchy. Suddenly, there were leaders, priests, and laborers. This is when the concept of the working day truly began. In ancient Mesopotamia, around 3000 BCE, we find the first written records of state-mandated labor. The ziggurats of Sumer were not built by volunteers. They were built by a massive workforce bound by religious duty and state requirement. But even then, it wasn't like your modern job. Ancient civilizations followed the rhythm of the seasons. In ancient Egypt, the flooding of the Nile dictated the flow of life. For months, the fields were submerged, and the peasantry was drafted into monumental construction projects for the pharaohs. But when the waters receded, the rhythm slowed again. Even in the Roman Empire, where wage labor did exist, life was punctuated by an absurd number of holidays. By the 4th century CE, the Roman calendar featured over 175 public holidays a year. These were days dedicated to games, feasts, and religious spectacles. The Romans understood that if you didn't give the people their bread in circuses, they would eventually burn the city down. So how did we get from 15 hours of gathering berries to the 40-hour work week and beyond? The shift happened during the Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th centuries. For the first time in human history, we developed machines that didn't need to sleep. Steam engines and power looms could run 24 hours a day. The constraint was no longer the human body. It was the machine's capacity. Factories demanded standardized time. The clock-in, clock-out system was born. We were taught to view time as money. We learned to compartmentalize our lives into productive and unproductive hours. We traded our autonomy for the stability of a paycheck and the security of a supermarket shelf. But look at the cost. Studies today show that the average office worker is only truly productive for about 3 to 4 hours a day. The rest of the time is often spent navigating the performance of work, the meetings, the emails, the constant surveillance of digital tools. We have reinvented the hunter-gatherer's leisure time, but we've disguised it as administrative work. We have become obsessed with productivity as a moral virtue. If you are not busy, you are failing. We feel guilty when we rest, yet our ancestors thrived by doing exactly that. They understood that the point of survival was not to accumulate, but to enjoy the space between the tasks. As we look toward a future dominated by artificial intelligence and automation, we are forced forced to confront the same question those early humans faced under the shade of an acacia tree. If the machines do the heavy lifting, what is left for us to do? Are we destined to keep inventing fake work to justify our existence? Or will we finally reclaim the original human privilege, the ability to choose how we spend our own time? Perhaps the most radical thing you can do in the modern age isn't working harder. It's remembering that for the vast majority of our history, we were never meant to be cogs in a machine. We were meant to be the masters of our own hours. The next time you feel the pressure of the clock, remember the hunters of the Kalahari. They didn't have a retirement plan, they didn't have a career path, but they had something that most of us are still fighting to get back. They had the sunset, the story, and the freedom to decide that, for today, the work was done.